There is one thing you learn when you evaluate the Old Testament, and that is that the easiest way is seldom the best way. Now, when something can happen easily, or when something can go easy, it should go easy. There's no need to make things more difficult than needed. But the easiest way is not always the best way. The way of least resistance can be a good option, but it's not always the best option. When the Israelites were freed from Pharaoh and were on their way out of Egypt, why didn't God lead them through the land of the Philistines right into Canaan? It may have taken them maybe only 2 months, and they were there. No, the Lord saw that if they would take that route, they would face resistance and they would turn back to Egypt. Yes, they would. You may think, well, Don Rashid, you're telling me that those people that witnessed those 10 plagues, they went through all that hardship to be freed from Pharaoh. They received the wealth of Egypt. They became the richest nation on the earth. You mean to tell me that if they arrived at the promised land, they would turn once they faced resistance? Even though those 10 plagues were on their behalf? You mean to tell me they had so much unbelief that despite witnessing the 10 plagues on their behalf, despite witnessing collective wealth transfer from the Egyptians onto them, that they would still turn back? The Lord saw it. And the Lord was vindicated at Mount Sinai because the Lord led them to the Red Sea. He led them to the Red Sea for two purposes. One, because the Lord knew that the past would come after them, Pharaoh and his army would come after them, so the Lord led them to the Red Sea, a situation they couldn't solve, so that the Lord would free them from that situation, so that their enemies would draw on going after them. The Lord did not prevent their enemies from coming after them. The Lord allowed their enemies to come after them. The Lord just redirected their enemies into their own doom, so that they would be freed from their enemies once and for all. Despite them being freed from Pharaoh and his army once and for all, look at Mount Sinai. At Mount Sinai, they rejected the rule of Christ. So they had to receive 10 commandments, 10 more laws and regulations. And even then, they kept rebelling. They were murmuring, complaining. What was going on? They were clinging on to Egypt, the same Egypt that oppressed them, the same Egypt that was destroying them. They were still clinging on to the benefits and reliefs of Egypt. So for 40 years long, they were wandering, and the next generation that rose up was able to take the promised land. Now you know why the Lord did not lead them directly, swiftly into the promised land. Now, it can happen that the believer receives something instantly. Okay? Now, in the case of the Israelites, they were a collective of around 3 million. And they had a lot of unbelief. There were some hardcore real believers amongst them, don't get me wrong, like Moses, like Joshua, there were those amongst them. But they had collective and individual unbelief. Okay? Now with you, it can be that you're a hardcore true believer, that you're really walking in the power, but still there are times the Holy Spirit will not grant you things swiftly and instantly. Because just like with the Israelites back then, if they would have received the promised land swiftly, let's say that they wouldn't have returned to Egypt, but they would have remained there. Pharaoh and his army could easily have come after them. Okay? There are times the Holy Spirit will lead you into a difficult situation. You didn't want to be in that difficult situation. You never asked to, but the Holy Spirit will lead you into a difficult situation so that the real difficulties that are haunting you will destroy themselves. The Lord will lead you in such a way that all tribulation against you will destroy itself. Tribulation will commit suicide coming after you, just like Pharaoh and his armies committed suicide by going after the Israelites. That's how the Lord will lead you. That's why the Lord will lead you into, through, and out of difficult seasons. The difficult seasons you go through are part of God's plan. They don't tell you this in Babylon churches. They tell you if you pay your tithes and come to church every Sunday, things will go easy. Then you're doing God's will. That's not true. The will of God includes you going through difficult seasons, through difficult circumstances. That's a part of it. You can't pray it away. You can't decree it away. You ought to agree with Christ when He leads you into, through, and out of difficult circumstances. And people say that's with building your character. There's something wrong with you that the Lord wants to fix. That's not always the case. It's not always the case that there's something with you that the Lord wants to purify you from. Just look at the bigger picture. Okay, let me give a parable and then I'm out. Let's say your name is Hassan, for example. You're from Morocco and you are a real believer. You agree with Christ. And let's say now that you came from the ghetto. So all your buddies, friends, they're all still in the ghetto. You're out of there. You started your own business. And you now want to meet new people. You want to have a collective that you can bless with your wealth. Because you don't want to live like the pop stars and Hollywood stars of the world. Because you know that those guys worship Satan. You want to do things God's way. And the Lord is happy. There's nothing impure about you. You are in full agreement with Christ. But Hassan, those around you aren't. Those around you are negative-minded. Those around you are resistant towards Christ. So let's say now, Hassan, you want to purchase that mansion so that you can make it into an orphanage and you can help street kids. Your idea is good, it's noble, and it's praiseworthy. But the Lord sees that once you purchase that mansion, it will run for the first 2 years very well, but afterwards, some of those orphan kids will turn into drug dealers, and Satan will begin to use them to tear down your enterprise. And from that orphanage, many hardcore criminals would come. So the Lord sees your intent, the Lord sees your success, but the Lord also sees how others will respond to it and what will eventually come from it. So that's why, Hassan, when you want to purchase that mansion, you got all kinds of troubles that hindered you. I'm not saying that there weren't envious people resisting you. There were haters resisting you. But the Lord allowed it to happen because the Lord did not want you to end up with an orphanage that bred hardcore criminals. Those hardcore criminals wouldn't have been caused by you. It wouldn't have been your fault. But some folks just hold on to the negative, and they will use you to excel in their negativity. Yes, they will. So when you are led into, through, and out of difficult situations, stop thinking it's all about you. It can be that you have a family somewhere that's about to lose their house because the husband lost a job, the wife and the kids together with the husband are about to become homeless, and they prayed for help. And let's say you were on your way to Havana to have a great holiday. Suddenly you arrive at the airport. They decline your passport, so you can't board the plane. And you think, what the heck is this? And then they even suspect you of having drugs with you, and you think, what the heck is happening here? So you end up 2 nights in jail. And you think, what the, and you're really angry because you think, I'm not allowing this, people to treat me this way. So then the next day you can leave. Let me say after those 2 days you can leave and you board the train. And when boarding the train, you encounter this chick, you begin to talk, and then she talks about how father lost her job and they don't know what to do. So you, having your own business, you have thousands of euros on your account, you thought, you know what, let me donate a bit to this family, and you wrote a check of 4,000 euros, which was more than enough for them, and you went your way. Now, your holiday was ruined. You did not arrive in Cuba. You were hindered. You had spent 2 nights in jail. But the reason this was allowed to happen was to redirect you to the family that was in need. The Lord used you to answer their prayer. The Lord did not inform you about it, but you just had to trust Him. So you being led into that difficult situation, being led through it and out of it, well, had nothing to do with you. There was no fault nor sin about you nor concerning you that had to be dealt with. It was meant to glorify Christ. So learn to be Christ-centered. So stop expecting everything to start off good in your life. Agree with Christ. Be at peace.